Are you looking for next level moto navigation? Then look no further than the Spedal NaviCam that provides you the ability to use Google Auto and Apple CarPlay. Stick around and I'll explain all the features with this device. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. This is a sponsored video. The company that makes the Spedal NaviCam sent me this device to test out and do this video review. And it came at the right time because I have destroyed 3 of these in the last 4 years. I've burned in screens, I've ruined the CPU in them, and I've totally destroyed the sensor so that the cameras were unusable. So I was looking to try to find something else that I could use for navigation. Not a huge fan of just straight GPSs. I don't know why, I don't know what my problem is. I prefer the functionality of a phone. So when they sent me this and I learned that I could use Android Auto, it got me excited to really try this out to see how it would work. If you're not familiar with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it basically broadcasts what's on your phone up to the display. So I use Google Maps for a lot of my navigation, and I will put in a destination on my phone and then it shows up on the screen and shows me where to go, does all the navigation up there. The added benefit is I can connect my Bluetooth communication up to this device here. So I'm getting sound off of this and being able to control calls, music, and also getting turn-by-turn navigation. Now, the one thing that I was concerned about is whether or not I would be able to use this very functionally off-road. And I know for most of you watching this, that is a concern, is how you do your off-road navigation. And what I found is that GAIA Maps works on this. So I can pull up GAIA on my phone and it'll show up on here so I can do the off-road navigation, say like on a BDR. If I want to record navigation, I can do that so I can get my own tracks. So that really solved a couple of the problems that I was having with destroying a phone, which I didn't want to do anymore, and also getting the navigation and the functionality from that. Now, this device itself has a bunch of other features. Some of them I'm not using, but others I find useful, and that is it provides tire pressure monitoring. So there are little sensors that go on your valve stems to keep track. Now, I have found the tire pressure to be a couple PSI off from the way I set it, but it's more of a gauge just to see where things are at. If you have a flat, then you're gonna see that pressure drop. It will give you alerts on that. So I think that's useful from that standpoint. The other thing that this has is it has cameras, front and rear, I guess dash cameras. I was considering trying to use those for content, and it just didn't seem like that was gonna work very well. Had a bit of a walleye, fisheye vision, and that is not gonna work for me. The other thing is, considering I'm doing a lot of off-road riding, I tried kind of installing one in the rear to kind of be like an extra rear view mirror, and the stickiness didn't stick real well. So I decided not to go with the cameras. I didn't want to drill holes and screw them into my fenders. So if you want a dash cam and you don't ride off-road or do any hard off-road riding, then those will probably work just fine. For me, it just wasn't going to function the way I wanted it to. All right, a couple other things to note is it's been visible with like huge sunlight like there is now. It doesn't show up real well on the camera, but I haven't had any glare issues where I haven't been able to see the screen, which is really good. Sometimes using cell phone navigation, I can't see depending on the angle of the sun. The other thing is I have been in some really direct sunlight for long periods of time sitting, and it's not terribly hot right now. It's the end of February, 1st of March, but I have had my cell phones overheat. So far, this is not overheated like I have seen cell phones do when they're exposed to intense light. Now, I just keep my cell phone in my tank bag plugged in so it's powered, and that way I have control over it, and if I need to make any navigation changes, I can stop and change it on my phone. Now, you can also make some adjustments to your navigation on the screen itself. There's a couple different settings with how much screen that this fills, but my experience with it has been pretty good. Now, I will go through the installation after I get through all of this if you're interested to see what the installation is like. And but my last few thoughts on this is I've had a couple of small issues. One, the sensors, when they came in, the batteries were dead, so I had to replace the batteries in the sensors. Not a big deal. I just had to do it. And then the other issue that I've had, more so yesterday than I had the first 2 days of travel, is, and I don't know if it's my phone or if it's the device, but I've lost connection between my phone and the device. So I don't know if my phone is dropping the connection to the device or the device is dropping the connection to the phone. I have a Samsung S10. It's an older phone. Unfortunately, I have to pull over, power off the bike, power it back on, and then I'm good to go. I have an update regarding the phone disconnecting from the device. I discovered after I originally filmed the video on this that when I was rolling through Border Patrol checkpoints, this happened several times after the filming, that's when my phone disconnected from the device. Now, I don't know what Border Patrol is doing at their roadside checkpoints, if they're jamming cell signals or if they're doing a quick phone interrogation and logging who goes through, at least by cell phone. Not exactly sure, but that is the only time that I have discovered that it's disconnected. And I started thinking back at the other times when it's disconnected, and it was at those points. And I say that because I went back and forth through one single checkpoint, and going in both directions, it disconnected. So if you're not riding in the south along the border, you probably won't have any issues. Yeah, if you're looking for next level navigation, this is a great way to go because you still have all the functionality of your cell phone, but you get to broadcast that up here and not abuse your cell phone having it in some sort of cradle. So I've been very, very pleased with it. I like it better than had I gone with like a traditional GPS because I have all of those connections. Now, I know there are GPS units out there that do that, but as new apps get added to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, then that functionality becomes available on here. And I really like that I can use GAIA. I'm new to GAIA. I've got to learn it, but it gives me that off-road navigation very, very simply over using a GPS. So I think this adds more functionality in my opinion. All right, one more thing I need to mention is the screen. I wear prescription sunglasses to see distance. So when I have my prescription sunglasses on, it makes it hard for me to see things up close. The text on this is a bit small for me to be able to see. That might not be a problem for you. I just basically look at which direction I need to go and listen for turn-by-turn direction. But that is the one thing, and I haven't been able to find a setting to increase the size of the text. If I could do that, that would make things so much better. But I haven't been able to find that yet. That might exist, but for now, if I want to be able to see and maybe see how far, what time I'm arriving, how many more miles, I've got to pull my glasses down and then really stare at the screen. So that's probably been the only thing that has been a bit of an irritation, is just the font size. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this device. I will go through the installation now. After hearing about the features, if this is something you're interested in, there's a few things you need to know about going into the installation of this. And the first thing is it comes with this mounting bracket. This is meant to be mounted to your handlebars. I really don't recommend mounting anything you're going to be using for navigation to your handlebars. It's going to take your eyes off of the road and it's going to move it down. So you're not going to know what's going on in front of you. I don't like to have those small delays in looking down at navigation and coming back up. You will still have it if you're using a Bluetooth communication set. You'll still have voice navigation if you're using one of the apps for voice navigation. However, I really don't like the idea of it being down. So what I'm going to do is go through how to mount this on the GPS mount that I have on my Tenere 700. Now, I have a very similar mount on my KTM 390 Adventure. Any GPS mount, I think there's a way of doing that I'll go through. So let me go. What I'm basically going to do is get it put together, and then I'll describe what I've done and show you what I've done. Not go through all the steps because it'll just take too much time. So let me get this mounted. For the GPS bar, I have this block, this GPS mounting block that I had picked up off of AliExpress for like $5. So what I have found is the clamping area of this. If I remove this, I can mount the clamp to this and then do some configurations with this, which I'll show you. So I'm going to do that because I just don't really see a good way of taking this bar and mounting it up there. This space is too big, and I have done it where I've tried using different types of clamps, different types of mounts around a GPS mount, and I just have never been able to get them to hold their position. So that's what I'm going to do, is mount it to this block, because I know this block will hold. All right, I've got the block here with the way these are put on. No, they didn't come out as well as I'd like. There should be some little spacers in here so the nut is coming straight down, but I don't have that. And it's on here very well. I haven't tightened this up yet because I haven't got it exactly where I want it. And then you can see the angles on this bracket to get it where it needs to be. Now, there might be some things I could do where I could disassemble these ball joints and then try to bolt it directly up to here. But this is a pretty big screen, and I need to make sure it sits in front of the LED display that we have on the T7. So I'm going to go with this for now, and after a couple thousand miles, I'll know whether or not this is going to hold or if vibration is going to cause this thing to move around. Now, I've cranked down on this whole setup. Now, if you're concerned about any theft of this device, this has one of those special locking type nuts with a pin in the center of the Torx. And then I used Allen heads on here. There is just a finger tight one that you could use, but I went with the Allen. And then same with this, that's all Allen keyed stuff. So once the windscreen is up here, it's gonna be really hard to fit your fingers in here. And even if you could pull the screen straight out, unless you have all the Allen tools, it would be tough. You just can't grab it and go, basically is what I'm saying. Here's the wiring harness for the device. Now, there's one thing that I think is important to note if this is something you're interested in. The way that this is wired up is you have one lead that goes to accessory. Basically, it's switched. So when you turn on the key, you start the bike, it'll power up. You've got another lead that goes directly to the battery, probably for memory purposes, and then the ground. So the hard thing is if you don't have an accessory switched lead somewhere, then you're gonna have to try to find one. A good place to try to find a switch lead is off your accessory port. Maybe you've got a cigarette lighter port, 12-volt port, that usually is switched off of the battery. You might have to cut into that and splice this in, so that could be problematic. On my T7, on the left side, in the part of the tower, there's a 3-plug lead, and I've got 2 power leads off of that and a ground. So I'm using one of those for heated grips that I'm putting on right now, and I'm going to use the other one for the switchable side of this, and then I'm just going to run a power lead from the battery up to this and splice it in. So that's what I'm going to do. That might be something to take into consideration, is how easy it is for you to wire this in, how comfortable you are cutting and splicing and finding leads that are off the accessory or on the switch so that it's switchable. So I'm going to get this wired in real quick. All right, my wiring is an absolute rat's nest right now. And this cable for the Spedal stuff is really long. And I don't need that much, but there's no way of trimming it because it's got this control box here. So I'm going to coil this stuff up and use a lot of zip ties. Installing the tire pressure monitoring sensors is extremely straightforward. You just screw these on top of your valve stems. Now, what I found when I put these on is that they were not reading. So the display itself had, I think it was showing 17 PSI on both of them. And taking them on and off, nothing happened. So if you have that same problem, replace the batteries. I ended up having to spend like $15 on new batteries. It is a CR1632. You can pick these up at any hardware store. They're really easy to put in. And then what I had to do is I had to rebind the sensors to the device, to the display. It's a pretty simple process. You just tap on the motorcycle where the pressures are, and then at the bottom right hand corner you'll see binding. Just tap on that, and then you'll see front, rear, and then unbind all. So just tap on whichever sensor you're replacing the battery on, and then it's going to take a bit before it sees the sensor and binds it. Just be patient. I turned it on and off several times because I was impatient. Be patient. It will find the sensor and then start displaying the right pressure. So if your sensors aren't working, replace the batteries, super easy. And in order to replace the batteries, you get this little wrench and there's a nut on here. You just twist it off with your fingers, hold it, twist it off, battery's right there, slide it out, put the new one in. The next thing I need to do for the installation is put this remote switch on, and the purpose of this switch is to give you the ability to answer and hang up on calls. So you don't have to touch the screen, you can just do it right at your controls. Now it also gives you the ability to start and stop the video. If there's something you want to capture, if you're doing loop recording, you can capture some video. I think you can also capture still images if there's something that you wanted to capture as well with the cameras. I'm going to mount this on the switch gear, and that way I can just hit it with my thumb, just sliding it across. So I think that's probably the best place and where I want to put it. So I'll get that installed and show you where it goes. The final thoughts, observations on this is, given that the cost of a GPS compared to this unit, I think you can get this unit without the tire pressure monitoring and without the cameras. For me, if I was to buy it myself, that's what I would do. I wouldn't want all those extras, but if you want the cameras, then that's something you can do as well. The cost is about the same as getting a GPS unit, plus you have all the functionality of your phone. Up here, the different apps that you can use, especially switching between like GAIA, Google Maps, just different ways of navigating, and it gives a lot more flexibility. So I really like what this has done for navigation for me. It's made things very easy, and if you download offline maps, say like to Google or GAIA, then you don't need service. You can function perfectly fine without that and have navigation up here that you can see, follow lines, do turn by turn, all of those things. So that part has been great. The ability to have a little bit of control over music and then see when messages come in. I can't read them, but see when they come in works great as well. So I like it. I'm not gonna make recommendations for people. You need to make that own decision depending on what type of navigation you wanna do, whether you like using your cell phone or a GPS. I just find this to be a lot easier to use than dedicated GPS. So hopefully you found this useful. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let me know if you've tried something like this or where you may see some benefits to it or maybe some frustrations, just so we can share kind of what's going on in trying to find the right navigation. If you haven't done it yet, do that thing down below. Thanks for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.